Well, your tax dollars, if you're an American, are paying for drag shows. Are you cool with that?
Great.
We found a government grant in Ecuador that is paying over $20,000 to an organization, quote, to promote diversity and inclusion. Recipient will host 3 workshops, 12 drag theater performances, and produce a 2-minute documentary. Here's the government contract that you can find on a .gov website that was granted through the State Department's embassy in Ecuador. This, again, is paid for with American tax dollars through the U.S. State Department. Now, the objective for these types of grants, the State Department says, is to support the achievement of U.S. foreign policy goals and objectives, advance national interests, and enhance national security by informing and influencing foreign publics, and by expanding and strengthening the relationships between the people and government of the United States and citizens of the rest of the world. So this is national security to make other people like the United States, well, like them and like them, like in both sense of the word. Like they want other people to like us and be like us.
They want to, okay.
Right, because that advances national security.
So that's what the State Department does. So we're spreading this around the world.
So how does drag advance national interest abroad? You could make the argument, because America is so divided on sexualization and gender right now, that we need other countries to do that too. It's a part of culture we're exporting, like Justin Bieber, right? Or you can put that, we can put aside for just 1 second the idea of exporting our gendered ideals, because you could go all the way down that rabbit hole. Like, we want other people to be accepting of the spectrum of gender that we have embraced. And so we're going to do that in other countries so that they embrace drag. But you have to put that on the reverse. What if the Taliban decided to come to America and host events to promote their gendered ideals and say women should not drive, and they should be covered at all times, and that kind of thing? Well, we wouldn't be okay with that. So that may be part of the motivation here, but let's put that aside and talk about why drag. Why embracing drag is the new signal of virtue. Why is it in the government interest for you to like drag and you to pay for drag? Why is sexuality such a government priority these days? I think it's important for me to say I don't have any problem with drag in many circumstances. I'm from San Francisco. My sister and I used to like go dancing at drag places because it was really fun to dance with men who didn't want to have a girlfriend. They just wanted to dance and didn't have a lot of ladies to dance with. So back in the early 2000s, Esta Noche in San Francisco was the place to be. And we would just go there to dance, literally. So that, I have no problem being around drag locations, but these were like Friday nights and we were adults. I never thought that those things would come to community centers and children's story hours as they have around the country. Earlier this summer, it came out that the state of New York, or the city of New York, had spent $200,000 in public schools for drag story hour. Take a look at this. Now, there is a distinction between being trans and doing drag. In this segment, we're talking about drag. Drag is typically something that has been done by gay males. And there's an artistry to it. It's actually really hard. Like if I wanted to make Clayton's face look makeup like mine right now, it would take a lot of work. You have to know what you're doing. Trans is not like that. Trans identity is not a caricature. Drag is a caricature. The hair is bigger, the makeup's bigger, but it is also linked to sexuality in a way that the trans movement really tries not to be. There's a word for this, but I'm afraid to use it on YouTube because the trans community really doesn't like it. this distinction. So I'm going to have David or Philip type it into the Rumble chat. And if you have not joined us on Rumble, that's another reason to join us there, because we're more free to talk about these things. And again, you can see my intention here is good. I just want to talk about this, about why all of this public sexuality? What does it have to do with national security or public education? Last week, a mom in San Diego absolutely freaked out about what was brought to her community as a family-friendly drag show, and she went to the school board meeting, and this went viral. Take a look.
A drag show family-friendly, because if you follow it to its logical conclusion, you can slap family-friendly titles on anything. You can have family-friendly gentlemen's clubs, family-friendly strip shows, family-friendly 50 Shades of Grey read-alouds. Will you approve my flyer if I want to host an all the sex secrets of the Kama Sutra for kids and families if it's family-friendly? That's my question.
Wow. Come on.
What is it about a grown man, and I honestly, sincerely, as a woman, mean this, what is it about a grown man costumed in a sparkly bra with augmented boobs busting out, a leather miniskirt barely covering his twerking ass with tuck tape on his front while spreading his fish-netted legs as he writhes on the ground, grinding his groin next to a minor, family-friendly?
Yeah.
How in the world would that be family friendly? Like, I would flip the F out if someone did that to my kids. And of course, over the past few days, Sarah Gonzalez, of course, has been all over that story and went to a show, and the video is unbelievable. I seen like a little girl just sitting there, like my daughter's age. Like, what is happening?
Yes, we are going to talk about this because she is raising hell on Twitter over what was called a drag brunch. It was advertised that all ages welcome, and we're going to show you some of it, but we had to remove the music for copyright, and also because they use a lot of dirty words that we should not say on YouTube, specifically words that refer to the female genitalia. If you take a look at the invitation there, down in the bottom right, it does say 18 and over, but the description of the event said all ages are welcome to attend. However, due to suggestive material and coarse language, parental discretion is advised. If minors do attend, meaning they're gonna let them in, it's fine. They must be accompanied by a parent or guardian. Viewer discretion is advised because we got potty mouths. Okay, in this sense, I'm open to the argument that, hey, they were warned. They brought that little girl anyway. That's on them. Or is it someone falling victim to a cultural movement that is so pro-sexualization that they really hadn't thought it through? In which case, there's collective blame to share. Are we collectively normalizing something that is not good for children? Well, now, in response to this, Republican states are starting to react. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has called for prosecution of those involved in this event. And now in Idaho, a proposed bill would ban public drag events for children. Take a look.
Out of North Idaho, state lawmakers are set to propose a bill to ban drag performances at all public venues. That includes drag queen story hour events where they read to kids at public libraries. The Idaho Family Policy Center says the bill will be introduced in January in the first few days of the session.
So you think about it, a child has to be 13 to go to a movie that has sexuality accompanied by an adult. But now they can see this sexuality, which we need to agree that drag is sexual.
Yeah.
Even if you're just doing it as a caricature to like read a story, right? There's still something sexual about augmenting your sexual parts. And so, you know, now they can see it in town parades and story hours where they wouldn't be able to get into a movie. So I think, again, we revisit the question, is there a purpose to this? Like, if you are someone who says, yeah, it's great, it makes kids more open, it gives them, they love costumes, it gives them the idea of what? Right?
Of what?
I really want an answer to that. Like, what is the goal?
I mean, I think, well,
if you're someone who's like, I just want my kids to be open to everybody, and that means, but you're saying that I want them to be open to these people's sexualities, which is fine, but do they need to see that? And, do we open them up to all sexual? She mentions the Kama Sutra. So then, like, can I give them these, the Kama Sutra has all these sexual positions. That would also be sexualizing children too early. No matter what it is, it's just, I think about the careful way that I explained like sex, and we were driving once with my kids, and there was a big billboard for a sex shop, and my son was like, what is that? And I thought, I don't want him to think of this as like a commodified activity. So I just said, well, remember when I explained to you what sex is? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, for anything that a person can do, someone can sell you something around that. I was like, like readers, you give them bookmarks, and golfers, you give them golf towels. And he was like, okay, cool. That's all he needed to know. So I literally compared sex toys to like bookmarks, but it seemed to get the point across. But, I really want them I want their sexuality to develop more from their own feelings, right? Than external forces, than something that they see externally. That's why there's an age limit on pornography.
So it said momsplaining.
Yeah.
And we can't send our kids, you can't join the army. You can't.
All right. Well, how else would you have explained to a 9-year-old a sex shop? You tell me in the chat.
Right.
You can do it better.
Well, in that moment when you're driving, you're like,
just let him watch 8.5 weeks.
I don't know. I'd be like, I would have just turned out the music and be like, sorry, I can't.
Ask
what?
your mom.
Hold on, I'm getting a phone call. Sorry. Yeah, I'll be there to pick that thing up at 5 o'clock. I don't know what the hell.
What I used to do with my daughter is, and I've always had this like standing rule, and she knows about it, is like, if she asks a question and I know that the answer is going to make her feel uncomfortable, I always ask her, like, are you sure you want to know? And then she'd be like, she'd think about it, and if she said yes, then I would explain it. Like, I don't know what kind of terms you can and cannot say on YouTube, but there was one like kind of a dumb thing that she'd ask me what somebody had mentioned it, like having to do with motors and boats, and she was like, what is? She was like, what is that? And so I was like, are you sure you want to know? And she goes, yeah, I want to know. So I explained it to her, and she was about 9. And so she kind of like sits there quietly for a couple seconds. Then she looks at me and she's like, why would anybody do that?
That's a good question.
Like, I don't know.
It is a good question.
When my son, the way he asked it before this sex shop thing, he said, how am I related to daddy? He's like, I know I came out of you, but where does he get involved?
Where am I in that process?
I explained to him that a man and a woman's body fits together like a puzzle, and that's how the baby goes from one person to the next, and then the baby grows. And so he's like, okay, like 2 puzzle pieces. Got it.
He's like, all right, I'm going to go back to playing Lego. Got it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom. Appreciate it. Like, phew, we dodged a bullet there. Thank God. But this is the point. Like, I want to be able to have those conversations with my kids, right? Or not, and pretend I'm on the phone. I want to be able to have that. I want to be able to be around that and sort of allow them to experience that at an appropriate age. But to have that, well, first of all, you're not even knowing that it's occurring because a school is doing it or a community center is doing it. Oh, we're just going down to the public library because we're going to check out some books, and they usually have some music and different like little festival things. And tonight we got to see a drag show at the public library. Mm-hmm. Or they could be like, oh, what?
Well, it's not,
what?
I feel like kids are just naturally inquisitive, and it's like they gotta each get there on their own. It's like let them question their way there instead of forcing the questions when they might not be ready for that. It's like every kid is at different stages, and some kids mature faster and have those questions sooner. And
right.
I think like the education system and people making that decision for parents really is, and there are some kids that unfortunately have parents that would never talk about it, that's right. Unfortunate, but it still should not be on the schools to make those decisions for any parent.
No.
Right. And so they don't sort of dramatize heterosexual relations. Like, we don't get to go in there and like do, like, what if we had a little mating dance?
Make a puzzle.
would we get to do that in front of the kids, like interpretive dance? Hey, Clayton and Natalie's kids, here come your parents for sex education. They're going to show us their mating ritual.
Yeah, forget the drag show. Today it's Clayton and Natalie. They're going to stop by your school, your classroom. Like instead of teaching you the school nurse is going to teach you. Here we go. Put on the music. Turn on the music.
I mean, if you really want to be enlightened, you should embrace those things. And so we'll bring that to you on Monday. No, we will not. So,
I mean, what is happening? I really feel like, because I don't remember any of this happening, a few years ago, and I certainly don't remember this happening when I was growing up. And I feel like I saw a bunch of people in the chat just saying, goodbye, America. Goodbye, America.
Right. Well, it's interesting, right? Because America can fight over this, and clearly we are. But why then export it when it's being fought over inside our own country? Don't we have other things the embassies can put on that, like, we're proud of? Like, throw a 4th of July party. Do that. Or, I don't know, like, there's a ton of things that the embassies can do that is less controversial than advancements in sexuality in this way.
Right.
So it's interesting. I was going to sort of move into the nuance of the trans movement versus because those things seem to be merged together, but they're not the same. So I think that confusion is key because, in fact, the trans community doesn't benefit from being linked to sexuality. So if you're confused, that's good. They kind of want that. And there is big money in pushing this issue out.
Well, there's big money,
in
of course,
a way
in the pharmaceuticals. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, there's a woman whose research I think is really interesting that I don't feel comfortable showing it to you, but I think that you should seek it out. There's a talk called Big Pharma, Big Tech, and Synthetic Sex Identities. One of the many shocking things that she points out is that when a child is put on trans hormones, the insurance companies bill about $9,000 a month for those hormones. But what those pills were made for is like treatment of cancer and things like that. So a cancer patient would only bill at $4,000. So there is profit and power to be gained in this gender confusion that we are continually told that we need to accept. And also, as we continue to push gender ideologies, there are women who will be harmed in this. We spoke about the trans women in Scottish prisons last week. Here's another example. In Spain, a woman was beaten by her husband, and when she reported it, she found out that he could not be charged with abuse because he had transitioned to a woman. And the way the laws were written there is that domestic abuse had to be man to woman.
What?
Since he no longer was, even though they had proof that he had harmed her. He couldn't be, because this is the law now. Another case in the UK, a woman was refused an operation because she had asked for only women to take care of her at the hospital because she was a survivor of sexual abuse. And she said, I really am just not comfortable with men practitioners. And also, I don't want to accept other people's pronouns. I don't want any, transgender people. I just want women, if that's okay, because this is how I feel. I'm whatever. She was somehow sent a trans person to care for her, and she got scared, and the hospital canceled her surgery because they say they don't share her beliefs. Even though she had said on her pre-op paperwork that, look, I don't go along with people's pronouns, and I don't want any manifestation of gender ideology. Can you please just get me a female team, a female nurse? Because a nurse, right, is going to be like wiping your butt.
Yeah, a lot of people in the chat saying that's stupid. What? I don't understand
why
either.
You can be intolerant one way and it's okay to be intolerant the other way. It's like, why do they have to embrace their beliefs, but they won't embrace hers?
Is there a shortage of female nurses that you couldn't just, she's sick.
I think so.
She's a survivor of sexual assault. Is it really that hard to just get her a female nurse? Just leave it. Or is it so important that, we prove to trans employee A that that there are no other patients for him? I know there are.
As Jordan Peterson talks about, of course, that women largely the nursing profession has way more women because women are attracted to to people and the emotions of people working with people, while men are more typically drawn to working with things like engineering and things. Mm-hmm. So the nursing profession has always had a preponderance of women gravitating towards that profession.
So then why not just let her have this? If you're having a surgery on I think it was some type of cancer or colorectal surgery. So it's an intimate area. And I asked for female masseuses, is that okay? Can I have gender preferences anymore if they're touching my body?
I ask for female masseuses also.
And he gets Olga.
I am Olga. I am here.
Down.
So,
how's your neck?
These questions continue to trouble, and you don't have to like it because the American government will just take your tax dollars and do what they want with it.
Oh,
so,
man.
how do you like them apples?